So, just a little heads up. We are definitely going through trial and error with the podcast. We filmed this week's episode outside, thinking that the noise cancellation on the headphones that we have would have been enough, but it turns out that a lot of background noise was picked up. The vocals are still pretty clear. We've tried to mitigate the background noise. So, just in case you hear a couple of things in the background, uh, please pay it no mind. I still think this podcast episode is very insightful. I still think you can take something from it, and I still hope that you give it enough of a listen. Thank you.
Producers, how long are we on now?
Well, 55 minutes.
On this particular video? On everything.
Okay.
What else? I think we can just free flow the conversation because in all honesty, I think I've gotten everything that I need to
Okay.
get from this conversation. It's been lovely. But is there anything else you guys would like to add?
Already.
Yeah? What about you, Josh?
I feel like I still have something about me trying to process it.
You're trying to process it?
Like,
That's
like,
fine.
Yeah. I'll be so pissed off if I don't get to like do it while we're still recording.
And then you just like text me and you're like, well, I think when because I feel like this particular episode is a form of support for the people who have been through it. Just so you know, like you're not going crazy. The experience is very similar across the board. For some people got support, some people didn't get enough support. But I think there's also another side of it for the people who've not gone through it yet. And I think for those people, it's okay to lean on others. I think that's the message I'm trying to. Not in every instance you will have the support that you need, but it's okay, right? When these things do happen, that you lean on other people. You can't be an island. I don't think you should isolate yourself. I think you should go to the people who've been through it so that they can help you with it. But it's not going to be easy. So I think we can be the scapegoats to give them a bit of a guide on what it's going to feel like and what it might be like. But you'll get through it. I think that's the best thing. You'll get through it. It's a process. Hold your siblings close because they're the people you'll need most. And your true friends will rise to the occasion. So far, so good. I think I learned lessons in my grieving process. I think I had my highs, I had my lows, and all of it was through learning how to deal with such devastating. I guess I'd ask, do you feel like you had a spiral at some point?
Sorry?
Do you feel like you had a spiral at some point?
Like a downward spiral?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He was like,
Definitely.
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of unavoidable.
Yeah.
And like you said, like with every milestone, you kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
You kind of see it coming, like, okay, this has happened. Normally your dad would be there. You're going through this phase of life. So like imagine like I was 10. It's like when you're 13, puberty obviously going through that part.
Yeah.
When you're going through like you're going to university, like what school should I go to, what course should I study?
Yeah.
Navigating
And I think dads play a huge role in that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, career wise, I think it's very common for children to just follow their parents' footsteps. So like for example, I was going to study economics. I was doing that because my dad studied economics and I did not like economics. I mean I left economics for business because I was like I think I like the business curriculum more. It's more like I felt it was more practical. But then for everybody it would just be like you're no longer studying economics, you're studying business. But I remember after I changed I was like I betrayed my father.
I feel like you find the connections where there are no connections.
Yeah.
Like his job was not what connected you to him. His spirit connected you to him, so it's okay to.
You know,
it's
you
okay to
you
switch.
you look, like you said, you look for anything.
Anything to connect. Yeah.
Like I told you, I don't have any pictures with him, so like it's like anything you can't just hold on.
Hold on.
Okay, like
Yeah, and I feel like that's tough because I remember mentioning this to you earlier, where I was like, sometimes I would watch videos of my mom just to like hear her voice, and you were like, I don't have any pictures, and it broke my heart because I but you do have pictures of him. You still have
yeah,
pictures with
I'm like fine.
him.
He
Yeah,
did not take. He did not like it. So
fair enough.
I think advice could be, if you have them, like ambush them, get a lot
Ambush
of
them to get all
pictures,
the
get.
content you can get.
It might seem like corny or cheesy. Like if you have to do, if your family's around for like Christmas or any holidays, get a photographer.
Yeah,
Like,
take pictures
do
with them.
those two. You don't have to put it in a frame and put it around the house, but
Yeah,
just
but keep.
have it, and video as well. Video.
Would you say you had a downward spiral or a moment of depression that came afterwards?
The depression, yes, the depression was there, and depression was for me because depression started way before when she was sick already. I was just going downhill. I was just going downhill. So I didn't want to think about it. I knew it was there, but I didn't want to think about it. But when I'm around people and they're like, "You, how is it possible that you got quieter? How you already?" I'm like, I was like, at a point they could see that I wasn't there. I was physically there, but I just wasn't mentally there. Especially when I had to put things in the box, I find myself just moving things and moving on autopilot. Me and myself basically zombies for a while.
Yeah.
We're just moving through the motion and all. Then after a while, I was like, I really need to break down.
Yeah.
Because if I don't break down now, if I'm forced to do so, it's going to be hard to get back up.
This is why I said feel it, because it prevents you from moving on. It prevents you from all the blessings that could come into your life. Because I feel like if you don't feel and you block it out, you will block out other important things
And when you push it down, it will come out in the ugliest.
in the ugliest form.
Yeah.
I had my moments of denial. Right, like the stages of grief, I think, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. I went through a denial phase. I went through a bargaining phase. I went through an anger phase. Um, and so, where do you guys think you are now at in your stages?
It's when you brought up the phases, it just brought to mind like how I, I feel when you go through that, and then like we said, at every milestone, you feel a different part of it. So like, let's say you're an adult now, you need something, and you're like, just be angry. So for me, I was there when we had it.
One moment, guys. Is it possible to switch on the flash? Because I think it's getting darker on both.
So for me, I witnessed his first heart attack the year before. I knew he had promised, oh, I would do this, I would do that. Um, Sometimes I'm just like, why did you do this? Like you get angry at him, like, why did you do this? If you did this, maybe this would have gone
You could have
better.
survived.
If you like, there's that anger. Sometimes you're angry at the person, sometimes you're angry at the situation. Sometimes you're angry at yourself because I'm like, oh, if I told him let's go running, maybe he would have. Why didn't I do that? Give
You were
someone,
10.
you're not going to
Yeah.
give somebody you feel like that, but
Yeah.
you feel like you find connections where they are.
You'll find connections where
and
they
then
are.
it just it's a form of self torture in a way.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And for some of us, the self torture comes very naturally.
Yeah.
I remember. I definitely, when you talk about anger, I felt a lot of anger. My mom was suffering through heart failure. Like between the time we found out her heart was failing and the time she died was like 5 weeks. Um, I remember in the process where I was taking care of her before she had to go to the hospital. The time I walked into her room and she wasn't breathing, and it terrified me because I thought that was when it happened. But it just, and then she woke up and I was like, oh God. But I think when it comes to anger, I would be mad at her because I'm just like, but they said you were meant to follow this diet and you're not following it, and it's stressing me out. Because at the time I was angry at her, but I think now it was
It is
I
fair.
was scared, and I was like, I didn't really get why she couldn't see that I was terrified. That if you don't do what you need to do, if you don't follow the steps the way you need to follow the steps, like, you're just gonna leave me hanging. I don't think
Yeah,
enough people
yeah.
talk about
My sister and I had the same thing. We were like,
that.
we came back home and found out she was no longer following her treatment. We were very angry. She and my sister didn't speak for weeks. We were very angry. I, on the other hand, couldn't afford that because I had to take care of her. Everybody could not. But she wasn't speaking to the rest of us for weeks. And then we were very angry for a very long time. But while we were in the hospital, we we're just like, what happened? You completely shut us out. What happened? And the reply was, she didn't know. She didn't know why. She didn't know. She honestly thought she was doing the best
Wait,
and
what are you
everything.
talking about? Is it about her not taking her treatments, her not taking medication?
Yes, her not continuing with her treatment. She said she felt she was doing the best and she didn't want to burden us. Even though my sister had told her times and times again, like, if you do not do this, at the end of the day, this is where we are going to end up.
Yeah,
So my sister said for her, it was like she was living it twice,
yeah,
knowing that this was going to happen and then it's actually happening.
yeah,
But by the time we were in the hospital and we like had a talk, we had that time to talk when she was lucid and all.
yeah,
The anger, I wouldn't say it completely disappeared, but then we chose to let it go.
yeah,
Let it just go. Now what's important is making her as comfortable as possible.
yeah,
And then my anger was redirected towards other people. Like,
yeah.
if you guys were around and you guys actually like encouraged this, why?
Mm-hmm.
And then later I was like, I don't think these people knew any better either.
Yeah.
I don't think they knew any better either. And then it was at me. I was like, why did I have to go back to school? I could have stayed. I could have stayed. But then and then now I always backtrack when I say something like that. I'm like, if I had stayed, I would have given my mom more heartache than anything. The fact that I was not where I was supposed to be because of her and everything. And then I still went through the whole, maybe if you were more financially independent, you would have been able to force her to continue her treatment. And then I'm
So I
like,
guess we all experienced anger and bargaining at the same time. It's like, if I did this, if I didn't do
like,
that. So would you say you are? How long would you say your depression phase was, or would you say you're still at your depression phase?
Um, I think mine went on for a long time. I think my aunt really helped me through it. That's was my later stages,
Yeah,
like 20, just before COVID.
yeah,
So, one of my aunts was really helpful about it. COVID came and did its best to record the progress, but
yeah.
we're hanging in there. Um, I don't think I'm as melancholic as I would have been prior.
Hi, guys. If you found this clip insightful, there are more parts of this episode to come. So kindly comment, share, follow, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.